All right, so thanks for coming. We continue reading the Foundation of Buddhism. Now we are on page 13, still on the topic of the no self, which is, as I said, if you are saying that one of the one of the hallmark of Buddhism is the concept of no self, and in other words, you could say no soul or no what, which is actually really different from our lots of religions, especially in India. Because in India, I think last time we gave you lots of papers. When we understand the religions in India as a background, we know that of course Buddhism came up from India. You could say that on the land of, when I say India, those are including like part of the Pakistan and Bangladesh and Afghanistan as well, all this land. And then the concept of no self certainly is really like a revolutionary kind of idea to the religion in India, because for them the self is really important, because the self itself, it's not served as the unit of the, as the part of the God, and it also can serve as a kind of essence or unit as being the person that, or being a personal being. That would be reborn again and again. Even in Indian, kind of concept of religion, they believe in reincarnation, and then they definitely need that kind of believing that there was kind of entity that will be reborn and carry the karma, something like that. But then, even though a lot of people study Buddhism, I'm saying that like, but then still, even among the Buddhist school, there are so many different opinions about how do you understand the concept of no self too. But then, and some of the concepts which really carry a certain trait of believing the self, but maybe not unspoken self, something like that. So it's still being attacked by Buddhism. Because I guess this is not, actually this is a big subject when you do research. Because even during after the Buddha passed away, then there are lots of different schools. Some schools definitely carry certain concept very similar to the concept of the self too. But then I want to say one thing. I'm not here to, I'm not giving you one answer now, but I just want to say for sure, even though you might somehow carry a certain concept, but for sure you cannot tell anyone in Buddhist circle. Anyone in Buddhist circle means especially when you become a strong school that we believe in self. Then definitely you're not Buddhist school. I want to just say that. But maybe you have a different way to carry. For example, there was one of the school called Buddhalavada, which I used to do my master. My thesis was about that. Buddhalavada actually, generally the meaning means the Buddha means a person. Okay, but sometimes the word Buddha, not only just a person, but it always taking the connotation of carrying from one life to another life. So the Vada means the school, or you could say the speech, or you could say the theory about a person that will carry from one life to another life. And because they have a very tricky way of explaining that, even though we say no self, but they have a very tricky way to explain. So other school, or you could say now they call denomination, but we don't fight, but just disagree with their theory. So, and then we say, but are you believing in self? No, we don't believe in self, all right? And, but you say there's a Buddha who carry the karma and burden. What is this Buddha? He say, yeah, we say that there was a thing, but but that is actually, it's just in between, that one we're going to talk about it, in between the five aggregates, even though we're not going to talk about Buddhalavada, but that's small. But then they also accuse, so do you mean, if you say in between, do you mean that this kind of Buddha, or this kind of, what kind of, a self, a person, and the person mean it's just a linguistic reason you call that? Mean like, it's not exist. No, it's not linguistic person. So it's really confusing anyway. So, but I want to say that certainly if you, it's really confusion, and, but then, however, actually, but if we say in general, when Zhuang arrived in India, one of the Chinese monks who are very famous for his translator, everybody who are really, especially if you're a scholar, study the Chinese Buddhism, that then everybody know who's Zen John. And then he actually, when he arrived in India, he was surprised by the amount of person who believe in this school. But in China, or say that we are in another country, we definitely know the no self concept is very strong, and then we try to tell people no self. But that school is also believe in no self, but have a very different carry, have a very different carry. And he was surprised. He said, wow, so many people belong to this school. Actually, they are among them almost like one of the big school, right? But I guess that's, or you maybe understand it as maybe on an average standard. This is my explanation, not necessarily, but I'm very lucky. Buddha school is never exists now, completely gone, die. Otherwise, you may not happy with my interpretation. My interpretation is, my explanation is, it's like, but this is just my very basic understanding is, the Buddha usually, this kind of self-concept certainly is because you have to understand as an Indian culture too. So definitely it's something that really a lot of people find much more easier to grasp the concept of, a lot of things, like especially the karma theory, the karma. So, and why it become actually one of the majority, like a Buddhist school. But now it's completely gone. It never really been strong in, like, beside India, that like in the country in China or what, okay. Now we come back to still analyze how Buddhists understand the no self, now we come to the page 135. I guess we can read through that because the second paragraph and the third paragraph, it has a really fundamental teaching of Buddhism, and especially if you are not used to, I mean, you find a little bit confusing or complicated. But anyway, so why don't we just read through it first? Okay, we want to start from the left or right?
Okay.
Okay.
Let me start. One task that Buddhist thought attempts is a descriptive analysis of the nature of experience, or to put it simply, of just what it is that seems to be going on all the time. This exercise is in fact one of the preoccupations of Buddhist thought, and it offers a number of ways of analyzing the nature of experience, which are integrated in the complex Abhidharma systems of the developed schools of Buddhist thought. Perhaps the most important analysis of individual experience found in the early texts and carried over into the Abhidharma is an account in terms of the 5 aggregates or group skandha, khandha, or physical and mental events.
All right. Second one, we will just explain a little bit later. So we know there was something that how the Buddhism basically have the way to analyze that a person or a living thing is about through how to say that. It's the individual experience. In the early text that usually we mention that as a groups or as aggregates. Okay, yeah. And the second, the list and the description. What are these aggregate? Second paragraph. I mean, we can just take turns. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The list and the description of the 5 skandhas represent a response to such questions as: what is being? What is going on? What is there? Is the first place I can say that I seem to have a body with 5 senses of sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. There is then the physical world, what the Buddhist texts call form, Rupert. In the second place, there is a variety of mental activities going on, much of it in direct response to the various physical stimuli. Thus, my experiences continuously produce in physical stimuli. Producing in me pleasant, unpleasant, or indifferent feelings. Vandana.
No vandana. Vandana means worship. Vedana.
I am also continuously classifying and sorting my experiences such that, confronted by various sense stimuli, there can be recognitions, some.
It's okay. You don't have to read that. But
Of something as an apple or a cup of tea. Furthermore, my experiences seem to provoke various desires, wishes, and tendencies, volitional forces or formations. Thus, if I perceive an apple when I am hungry, quite strong desires may arise, which may lead to my being unable to resist reaching out and taking it. In fact, given a variety of circumstances, the emotions produced in response to my experiences may lead to all sorts of actions from self-sacrifice to vicious murder. Finally, we can see that there is a basic self-consciousness and awareness of ourselves as thinking subjects having a series of perceptions and thoughts. In this way, my individual experience can be analyzed as consisting of various phenomena that can be conventionally classified.
Not conventionally, conveniently.
Conveniently classified as forming 5 collections or aggregates: bodily phenomena, feelings, labeling, or recognizing, volitional activities, and conscious awareness.
All right, thank you. I mean, this is really a classic way of Buddhists understand when you say talk a person. Of course, in our normal general language, we say, I eat an apple, I want to eat, right? But you don't, I mean, this is what we usually record as like a conventional kind of concept, conventional language, because the way we understand I mean certainly represent you, either represent you as a kind of consecutive change in you or a kind of person that you are different from the other. Yeah. But in a Buddhism, because in order, I mean, first when we read here, but so far we understand in Buddhism, so I mean, when you come to so-called not the conventional idea, but more like the, what do you call, we call that as the ultimate truth, kind of like, you have to analyze what a person is about. And it's really, in the Buddhist text, when you read it, the way you find a term called 5 aggregates of Panchaskandha, 5 skandha in Sanskrit or Pali Kantha. And that usually translated Wima, 5 aggregates, Win in Chinese. So, and then that we put a person mean there's a material side of it and there's a mental side of it. And the material side is certainly what we call the form here. And the mental side are composed of 4 parts of it. So here, so I think the last sentence kind of put it there, like bodily phenomena and the feelings, labeling, volitional activities, and consciousness belong to the mental side of it, So in other words, that's also one reason why, there's sometimes if you want to make a kind of Buddhist joke, when the people ask you, do you eat the apple, for example, you will ask, which part I eat the apple, It's, whether that's to do with the physical part or the mental part, Even in the mental part, which part you were talking about, eating apple, I mean, it sounds really, anyway, maybe a little tricky, a little funny, but all right. I mean, we can discuss a bit later. I'm sure that people might have questions and have something to discuss about, a comment on. Can you read the next paragraph? Yes. Yeah.
Buddhist thought presents these 5 aggregates as an exhaustive analysis of the individual. They are the world for any given being. There is nothing else besides. The question now arises whether any given instance of these 5 groups of phenomena can qualify as a self, an unchanging, constant, underlying experience. Stephen Collins effectively identifies 3 arguments for the denial of the self in the early Buddhist texts. One of the Upshanadic characteristics of the self was as the inner controller, And the first argument employed is that in fact we have no ultimate control over any of the 5 aggregates.
Can you read that further? Yeah. Body is not a self. Yeah.
Okay. Body is not a self. If body were a self, then it might be that it would not lead to sickness. Then it might be possible to say, let my body be like this. Let my body not be like this. But since body is not self, so it leads to sickness. And it is not possible to say, let my body be like this. Let my body not be like this. The same can be said of feeling, recognitions, volitions, and conscious awareness. It is simply ridiculous to take things that are bound up with change and sickness and over which we have no ultimate control as self.
Okay. Do you want to read the second paragraph, the next one? No. You sure about that? As the second argument?
Next time. Yeah, I'm really glad that she can be here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
She's 10, she's going into 5th grade, and she's interested in these ideas, but she's a little shy.
Oh, sure. I understand. Yeah, sure. I'm shy too. If you don't want to give a try now, but next time is all right. I mean, later. Okay. So, are you sure? You want to just read through it? No? Okay. No. All right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, okay.
A second argument against the self is to be found in the following exchange between the Buddha and his monks, which occurs frequently in the earliest Buddhist texts. Sometimes
Buttressing.
The argument from lack of control. The Buddha asks, what do you think, monks? Are body, feeling, recognition, volitions, conscious awareness permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Lord. But is something that is impermanent painful or unpainful? Painful, Lord. But is this fitting to regard something that is painful, whose nature it is to change us? This is mine, and this is myself. Certainly not, Lord. Therefore, monks, all body, feeling, recognition, volition, conscious awareness, whatsoever, whether past, present, or future, whether gross or subtle, inferior or refined, far or near, should be seen by means of clear understanding as it really is, as this is not mine, and not this is not myself.
All right, thank you. Then let me see. Well, why don't we just, let me have a look. Should we finish the 2 paragraphs? Or if we can jump a little bit, yeah. Yeah, yes. Why don't we just read the next paragraph first then? Because I think we need to explain what the painful is about. Can we just, can you read the next paragraph? You want to read? You want to continue, or you just pass it to other? Okay.
Good job. That something which is impermanent must be regarded as painful, dukkha, follows, of course, from principles we have already found expressed in the 2nd or the 4 Noble Truths. If we become attached and try to hold on to things that will inevitably change and disappear, then we are bound to suffer. This argument also seems to be aimed directly at the early Upanishadic notion of the self as an unchanging, eternal absolute that is free from all suffering. In the phrase, "This is not mine, I am not this is not myself," there appears to be a deliberate echo and rebuttal of the Chandogya
We usually pronounce u, not you.
Upanishads. This is the self, this is what you are.
And then, The third argument. Yeah.
The third argument centers on the meaninglessness of the term self apart from particular experiences. There are three possibilities. One must regard the self as the same as experience, or one must regard the self as something apart from experience, or one must regard the self as having the attribute of experience. But none of these ways of viewing the self is coherent. The first method, in failing to distinguish the self from changing experiences, ends up with a self that continuously changes as our experiences change. But a self, by definition, is something that does not change as experiences change. It is the unchanging thing behind those experiences. The second method makes no sense either since in a kind of inversion of the Cartesian I think therefore I am. Apart from experiences, how can one possibly think of oneself as existing? So we're left with the third possibility, namely a self that is something different from experience, yet not without experience. A self that experiences or has the attribute of experience. Such a self must still in some sense be distinguishable from experiences, yet there is no basis upon which to make such a distinction, since it remains the case that apart from particular experiences, it is not possible to think of oneself as existing.
All right, thank you. Any comment? Any clarification or? Yes.
So, I mean, the premise of why there is no self is because everything is impermanent, and impermanence equals painful / dukkha, right? So, is there a way to recognize this dukkha without meditation? Or do you have to truly experience the true meaning of dukkha through meditation?
I mean, when you ask this question, it become a question about what does a meditation mean here? Because no. I mean, well, if you want to divide that, I think maybe best to say when we come to this point, we are. It's not about meditation. It's about how we have the wisdom. Maybe that's a question is about. Mm-hmm. So then you must understand that in Buddhism also, in order to have wisdom, you could gain the wisdom by learning. For example, like you never thought about such a way before. Not that now you buy the theory, but at least you kind of like, oh, there are some other people had some, at least in Buddhism have different opinions about what the Tao is about. So because by the learning, you start to wrestle or you start to reflect, That's what the first one means by learning. You got the wisdom, right? Mm-hmm. And not that you always can do that, but I'm sure in your life that then sometimes you want to hold on something, your idea. So, and then you thought, actually Buddhism think about there is no such a so-called the self as the idea in the self, or there's something that's not changing. We have a problem, we suffer because we thought the idea should be, for example, I maybe just came to know a person from the start. I think the person is very kind to me. But the next moment, the person was not kind to me. Why I get suffer? Because I hold on the idea, believing there's something not changing. Mm-hmm. That is the person who has to be always kind to me, right? Get it now? But, but from that, it's just on the learning, then you understand, what should I think though? I don't need, maybe I'm angry now, I'm not happy, but if I change my way of looking at a thing, I feel a little better. Not that I'm a Zen or I'm a Buddha, whatever, but at least I feel better. Because I understand might have a problem believing that, that including not that just a person. Now that's how we come to the third part. The first part, it comes to like, when you hold the idea, but actually person can be mean. But say for example, there's a mean person, okay? There was a mean person that did a lot of bad things to me. But that even that mean person, not 100% always mean too, right? Mm-hmm. So, but it's our concept of the self, believing the idea as the entity here, that the self here is not just a soul, and it's something that's not changing. Okay, then that's the first thing. Do you call that as a meditation? Yes, that is also part of meditation. Because For example, now I back to, let's say, recently I have friends who are on the verge of dying, basically have a very serious illness. So, I mean, for example, like somebody who have very serious, including me, I don't want to say about others, just say myself, it's easier. So sometimes when I'm ill, I'm not well. So I feel suffer. Why? Because I still holding a concept of this illness should not come to me, right? Mm-hmm. Why? Because I'm always healthy. And now suddenly when I become not healthy, I feel miserable. It's not I feel miserable because of the pain. I feel miserable because the concept of believing that I shouldn't have this problem with me, right? Okay. Now, when I change my, maybe even I'm a good meditator. In other words, mean I always meditate or what. But then if I forget that concept, then what I learn doesn't apply to me. Okay. Now, then suddenly I changed the way, thinking, oh yeah, I forget actually, the Buddha said that, who I am. Of course, there's no I, right? Mm-hmm. If there's I, why I would be sick? Because I don't want the sickness there. So that the sickness comes certainly is impermanent, changing things. That's the fundamental kind of principle. You could see that, right? You get it now? So I'm applying my meditation there already. And maybe I will go further and check it, like which part I'm holding. Mm-hmm. And then this is how I lead myself to understand the dukkha. Mm-hmm. Here the dukkha means, here he translates painful, because suddenly you are not feel delight, like, oh, wonderful, no. But I think painful is a little strong language, but in the word dukkha generally means you feel strangle. Oh, strangle. Kind of like, somebody push you to the corner. Pressing is maybe something like that. It's just like somebody press you to the corner, you cannot move. Mm-hmm. And you feel, of course this is not a good sensation, but then if you accept you've been pushed to that situation, you don't struggle. Only thing you need to figure out how to be out of it, right? How to be, go out of it, run out of it. Say that people put you in a box. It's not that you want to, but kind of like that happened already. So if you only just screaming and struggle and you just suffer, but why don't you just come down and look, see at any chance you can be escaped from the box, right? Mm-hmm. Like that. That's dukkha mean by that way, like you've been pushed, you are oppressed, kind of like being oppressed. So the oppressions, maybe I like to translate kind of like oppression even in this case. So the oppressions, if you see the oppressions, if you recognize there's oppression there, then you are not struggle because there's no way to fight with the oppression. Then you have to, basically you need to calm down to have a meditate mind, to meditate, in other words, how you should solve the problem. Now I know your question is to meditate, but I want to say that it's maybe easier to answer this way. You need to have a constant this way understanding in order to meditate well. When we talk about meditation as a samadhi or as a kind of a vipassana or the insight, that usually carry the meaning that you have a much focused mind and to observe that. So that you could easily root out you should easily how to say, dig the problem into a deep thing, and then you can root that thing out. Mm-hmm. So that's why meditation always carry the meaning of you could do the thing continuously, mm-hmm. and without distraction, mm-hmm. right?
Mm-hmm. I guess the challenge in life is the fact that we observe, this dukkha in a very gross sense, right? Not a subtle sense, and for me at least, it doesn't seem strong enough for me to want to, let's say, let go of the sense of self. Because, okay, sometimes dukkha comes, sometimes it goes away, sometimes it comes, sometimes it goes away. So that's how we live our life. It's not, I feel like you almost need this super subtle, ongoing sense of dukkha for you to kind of renounce and detach from the sense of self. And that's kind of a struggle, in a daily life, unless I feel like you have, let's say, the concentration plus the vipassana to see this in its most, I guess, most rawest form of dukkha, and constantly to see this is, that's why you're like, oh, I need to liberate myself because I'm constantly in dukkha, versus you don't feel that way right now.
I will put it this way. After when you understand the theory of this, what we call the no self, or even the concept of dukkha, actually the difficult thing for normal people, I mean lots of people, it's because it's very hard for them to see everything happen. It's like have direct link, or don't say direct, just say indirect, would be best to say that. So that everything that happens to our life actually have indirect link to the dukkha.
Right.
That is a very difficult part for lots of people to recognize. And even when the people are on, usually people come to term the dukkha comes to their life. It's only when they face adversity, or when they face something that happened to them, disagreeable thing happened to them, to the person. So, and that you may become, so that's very unfortunate, because of that reason, a lot of people take the dukkha as a kind of really like miserable thing, only when you're miserable, then you will see there's oppression. No, I would say you maybe start with that first, because it's funny enough, in Buddhism it's different, is that only when you are being oppressed, not only when you are, in Buddhist understanding, you've always been oppressed, but only when you recognize you are oppressed, okay, and you accept it, very important, embrace it, then you start to see the oppression happened. So, right?
So is that possible in our daily life without meditation?
No, yeah, I mean, why not? That I just mentioned is like, when you have the knowledge carry with you, it's possible. But maybe just like the meditation, right? You say the focus, it's possible in your daily life. It only depends how much your awareness is there. When you're aware that, oh, no, I don't have a focused mind now, then I need to have focused mind. Then you focus, right? So then slowly you build up this good habit, right? Or even though you are not focused, you build up the good habit, know that you are not focused. That's fine. But you're living in what we call, I think last time did we? Not in this class. You're living, not in this class, in the talk, in the text, another text. So we're living in what we call vidya, mean the not delusion. You're living in the, actually called understanding, somebody will translate that. Vidya mean the understanding, or not delusion mind. So that's also actually give you the understanding of oppression, the concept. For example, now you have focused mind, and then now you don't have focused mind, and then now you have focused mind, and then now you don't have focused mind. Now, of course, in your life, if there's a self, you definitely need that. If there was something, that eternal thing that means thing can be not changing, then I want my mind never be unfocused, always should be focused, right? But that's not possible. Even however focused mind you get, you might be say, now I'm full of energy, I could have a focused mind for 1 day and 2 days and 3 days and 4 days, but you still find there was a time that your focused mind is not there, right? Just take that as example. So then this is how you start to see changing, okay? And when you see that changing, this is another kind of really a more advanced stage that you start to understand, well, so my mind sometimes is focused. Of course, focused mind is always good, unfocused mind always not good. That's what we call wholesome and unwholesome now. So, and then when you look at those focus and not focus, or focus and not focus, or not focus, not focus, not focus, and focus and not focus like that, what is that? Impermanence. This is wisdom. This is realization. And so, I mean, and then you start to see what's the problem of your feeling not happy with your, unfocused mind or focused mind. Why? What is there? What is behind there? What is that? No, not the dukkha. There are lots of answers there. That's why I want to hear everybody tell me which answer.
No self.
No, not no self. You haven't come to that no self yet. You just know there's an impermanent changing. Yes, you see the attachment there. It's because your idea thinking, I want only the focused mind. It's nothing wrong with focused mind, but that wanting to only have the focused mind, right? This is what it is. The cause of the oppression, the cause of the suffering. That's what we call the second truth. We learned that in the before the paragraph. So I don't want to say the third and fourth now, but at least you see the first two, and then now you start to, and it's very funny once you see that. Usually, very interesting is when, interestingly, after seeing that, your mind will. Doesn't matter whether focus or not focus, but you have a different transformation within. That's a wisdom. I mean, anyway, this is a big subject. That's why in the verses, in the Buddhist verses, always say, actually, maybe best to describe this way. Even the focus itself will help you to be bar you or make a wall. No, not make a wall in the Mexico. I mean, make a. I mean, like. Make a, I don't want to say make a wall now. This word is very sensitive, then this used to never be that sensitive before. After our new president say something. Anyway, not want to say did something. So how to say? So the concentration actually just help you to put away the thing, but only that it's just only the wisdom could really solve the problem. You get it now? Do you have some more understanding now? No. Okay, good. Okay. Even when you do vipassana, the process is a process. So what you have to learn is that ultimately you have to go through that process to see the Four Noble Truths. Yeah. That's a wisdom part. Yes.
So, if the dukkha happens when we hold on to things and when things change, that's when dukkha happens, can we understand it as that it's not necessarily a bad thing for us to enjoy something we like in the moment that we have it? The problem only arises when it disappears and we are like, why don't I continue?
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with enjoying what you have now.
There are different sense of mean by enjoying, but if you say that enjoying in a term like the moment that you enjoy the thing, usually it's a wholesome thing because you do not arise any bad emotion there, right? But not. I mean, this is a little complicated. I don't know why you mentioned this, but maybe best to say this. I mean, yes, I have to agree. I won't say whole everything, but usually yes. So for example, like when you enjoy meditation, that itself is. But usually we consider as a kind of wholesome action. Still is not the wisdom part. It's just the wholesome action by enjoying that moment, that meditation, for example, meditation is still different, carry different kind of result. That's the reason why we will talk about the karma. I can enjoy drinking a tea, or I can enjoy doing a meditation. Enjoy drinking a tea, take a different result. And enjoy doing meditation, I will have a different result too. But the enjoy that per se, usually it's understood as a kind of give you the wholesome action.
Okay, I guess the question comes from after learning from knowledge-wise, everything's impermanent and you're not supposed to be attached to things and stuff like that. Sometimes I'm for example, if something good happens to you, and you're I'm so happy, and then at the same time I'm I feel a little guilty that I feel so happy.
Why you feel guilty?
Because should I be enjoying this thing? But if I constantly force myself to not enjoy the things I enjoy, you can become a really unhappy person.
I don't understand what you mean now. So now I get what your point. No, it's like that. I mean, if there's a choice of two, you want to live unhappy or happy, definitely you have to live happy rather than unhappy. Because when you enjoy something and then suddenly you feel guilty, and that depends. I'm saying that not enjoying scolding people, enjoying like slapping people. That's a different thing. You know, I don't think people, I mean, anyway, enjoying thinking about that, just maybe best to say. No, I mean, I'm saying that, yes, usually if anything that makes you feel regret, and when I say regret in the term, mean like, not regret, 那个叫什么? I forgot the term. Makes you feel...
Guilty?
Yeah, guilty is part of it too. Guilty and like, some people overthinking. You know, like, makes you think a lot. And makes you feel like... Or discouraging. Makes you feel really discouraging. You know, there's a term in Chinese, I don't know in English usually what they translate, but 恶作 in Chinese usually translate. The word actually literally means the ill action or ill functioning. So you have a really, you know, makes you, then like just to say you enjoy something and suddenly you feel guilty, and then that is 恶作, is you are good, but then suddenly you change it into a different scenario, like, you know, you feel really bad, and then you start to feel unhappy, and then of course not just unhappy, not that you see dukkha, but you feel unhappy, and you start to feel anger, and then that kind of anger will make you be like you give up yourself or give up the other person too. That definitely is a bad thing. So that leads to the bad karma, right?
Right, yeah.
But if you are enjoying, maybe you are not in the knowledge, in like understand as what we call the wisdom part, but at least because you are enjoying, so you are leads you to have a good karma. You get it now?
Right.
So if that's choice, you definitely not to choose to have a bad karma rather than you have a good karma. Okay. Now the next question is, then how can I go beyond that? Not just a good karma, how can I go beyond that? This is what we are saying. So that actually, when that mind, you have to see, I mean, in theory, that means you need to see when you're craving on enjoying, that you need to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. But of course, how to get rid of it, if that's part of what we are talking here.
Okay. So can we say we can enjoy the moment, be happy at the moment, but not attached to the idea that happy moment will be last longer or will be happen again. Not attached to the enjoyment. Yeah,
you can say that, but I mean maybe my language ultimately, or even a Buddhist terminology and languages, that you must have the understanding, the wisdom, what we call, that you know that you are enjoying it. This is how you can, if you are in the beginner stage, you just, what we call, in terminology we call, then you know how to guard your sense. 就是防护五根嘛，就是 how you guard your sense. But when that guarding the sense becomes strong, let's say that I know my eye see something I like, so you know it, clearly know it. Not that you don't know. If you don't know, you will be carried away. You know it, so that you're guarding it. But this is generally that's, I don't know what you refer to this. This is usually, but we know the ultimate sense is to you still see the thing, but you don't let the craving comes along. Yeah. So when you got it, it's there, but you see it, so it would be like a thief, right? Somebody come to the shop. I mean, I used to be a shopkeeper, for example. I know when you know that people are like what do you call shoplifter, the lifter. When they come in, so you know that he might be a lifter. So you cannot chase them away because you are not, or you have no power or whatever, So you just got them, look, and they were just like, they thought they had a chance. That's the first part you need to do. Yeah. But anyway, there are more to talk. But that's guarding. In other words, the ultimately solving the problem is because of understanding the wisdom. Yeah. Yes.
Could we take a short break?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.